Hello, 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 everyone. Thank you for joining us for our new Edward J. Lewis II Lawyers in the Classroom program series. For those of you who aren't aware, the Chicago Bar Association's Edward J. Lewis II Lawyers in the Classroom program has existed for over 30 years. The program, which was originally a part of Constitutional Rights Foundation Chicago, involves me, Tiffany Watson, director of the program and former teacher and administrator, placing attorneys in second through eighth grade social studies, social sciences, and literature classrooms to teach students about the U.S. Constitution, their constitutional rights, our legal system, and their rights and responsibilities under the law. Now, under the auspices of the Chicago Bar Association's 501c3, since 2019, the Lawyers in the Classroom program has continued to flourish. Attorney volunteers are partnered with teachers to provide students with grade level lessons and knowledge based on real life experiences, help them develop their critical thinking skills, and offer young people an opportunity to interact with a variety of positive adult role models. The purpose of this series is for you to learn more about our participants in the Lawyers in the Classroom program, i.e., our attorney volunteers and teacher partners, while also learning about what they've experienced during our Lawyers in the Classroom visits. Today, we're speaking with one of our new teacher partners, specifically new to the school this school year, the 2020-2021 school year, Miss Brown Mallare. Miss Brown Mallare is a second and third grade teacher at Ariel Community Academy, um, one of our new school partners. And we're so grateful that she's here today. Thank you so much, Miss Brown Mallare, for joining us.
It's good to be here with you.
So just to get started, did you what made you decide to be a part of the Lawyers in the Classroom program?
Well, when it was presented to me, I thought that given the summer of Black Lives Matters and active student involvement and trying to make change, a positive change in how we do policing, I thought that this was a great opportunity to kind of look at the other side of the policing issue. Um, my father and my brother are both attorneys, and one of the key themes in my classroom is justice and doing things because it's the fair thing to do in our classroom. So we raise hands because it's the fair thing to do. And we look a lot at how justice and kindness play out and make the community a better place to live in. And so I thought this opportunity to have lawyers come into our classroom and talk to us about how laws are created and why they're created would be ideal, especially since one of the state standards is for second graders to understand the role of government in their lives and why rules and laws make life better for everyone.
Excellent, excellent, excellent reasoning, and that is part of the core of our program. So that's excellent. What do you believe are the benefits of the Lawyers in the Classroom for both you and your students?
Oh, there are numerous benefits to having the lawyers come into the classroom and discuss the different scenarios with the students. For one, it supported participation of all my students in learning. There were no strings attached to this opportunity for students. It was something that they could all do, whether they were readers or non-readers. It was something that they could all engage in. All of their voices were being weighed fairly. They were conversing with people who had no background knowledge of what they could or couldn't do. So it was just a very safe place for my students to engage and share and think. It was a really wonderful place for my students to practice, their social behaviors and with other people. And especially with COVID, they've been isolated for so long that they haven't had many opportunities to interact with other people. So just being able to interact with other adults help them just practice their social behaviors and kind of have positive interactions at a time where they were very isolated. It definitely energized our classroom. They look forward to our visits with our attorneys. Lots of excitement. I think it inspired our students. I mean, there were children who, in my classroom, who struggle academically, but since there are no right or wrong answers, right? We were doing this together. We were creating and developing the better statement of rules. They just jumped head first in and went for it. And they were very proud of themselves and for the positive comments for their thinking that they received from the attorneys. It definitely helped to break up the routine because at that point we were all remote learning. And we were all remote learning in our own space, kind of so even though we were together, we were isolated, and it just broke up that routine and that monotony of same faces, you know, day after day in the same space. And for me, it really, one of the things I've noticed in our social studies books is that there's a focus on people in our community who support our government, but the public figures that are chosen to be discussed in second grade textbooks are the mayor, the governor, the police, the healthcare workers. And oddly enough, the lawyers are left out of the discussion. And this was a great opportunity to kind of fill in that gap that before we have laws and policies, we have people who think very carefully about the intent and the purpose and the wording and clarity of these laws. And so it really helped to fill that gap, I believe. And for me, it gave me thinking on it for future times, like how I can bring in the lawyers discussion in a really good way. But no, it was just, there were so many benefits to having this program in our classroom. I'm just very grateful that we had the opportunity to share. And I look forward to it again.
Excellent. How have your students demonstrated what they've learned through the Lawyers in the Classroom lessons or in any of the discussions? I know you mentioned the attorneys leading the discussions around rules, which is really, you know, important, especially to students in the second and third grade levels. But in general, outside of the attorneys' visits, did you notice anything that they were able to connect back to the lessons?
I do. I think one thing, my second graders are very concrete thinkers, and things are either black or they're white. You know, it's either right or it's wrong. And the process by which we went through to develop laws and to see that maybe the first time we come up with a rule, we think it's a great rule, but maybe it's going to need some refinement as we actually put that rule into practice and we begin to see how it. So I think in our classroom, there are situations where children interact with each other and get into conflict and will state a rule, but then the other one will be like, but we need to clarify that rule is not exactly applicable right now. It's not exactly fitting the situation, because even though we're not doing, it's really been very interesting. Even though we don't have playground recess, we have recess on the computer, which is they play their games and they play they have rule, but it's an evolving process. So there's one child in particular who realizes that rules they evolve, they develop, they have to be discussed, they have to be clarified. And I definitely see them doing that at their playtime when they're playing their games, where they are developing the rules as they go along and talking about what would be more fair than the current understanding.
Excellent. So that's that critical thinking piece where they're kind of thinking about how fair is this rule to everyone. So like that is a great part of what we endeavor to teach the students, to critically think, you know, not only about what the law is, what the Constitution says, but how to critically think and how to apply it to their own lives. So that's pretty awesome. Um, would you be able to share a favorite experience you had during this time that the attorneys visited? We'd love to hear any highlights.
I just, So we had Attorney Edward, and his connection with the kids was just wonderful. And I think what was awesome was that they never wanted him to go. Like when it was time. So we always went past our allotted time, because the kids had curious questions to ask him about his job, because they only get to see lawyers. If they see lawyers, it's in crime scenarios on TV,
Sure.
violent crime kind of situations. And so for them to learn that a lot of the lawyering is done outside of the class, outside of the courtroom, and that a lot of things that come to lawyers never even make it to the courtroom. I think that was kind of interesting to them, because they realized that they had discussions about conflict resolution. That's oftentimes that's what lawyers are helping to do, is they're just helping everybody come to the best point where everybody can get along and get what they need. And it's not about putting people in jail. It's about how do we meet the needs of the people the best way and keep everybody safe and happy. And I think that was a really good experience for the kids to have, especially since my students, coming from the backgrounds that often many of them come from, it's a us against them kind of mentality with the law and the police. But to see that that's not the point of the law, they're not there to lock you up. They're there to make the community better and safer.
Great conversation. I'm so glad that the curriculum has opened up those conversations even more with the students, especially at such a young age. I mean, students are, especially over this year, have been confronted with these issues and kind of having to think about these things, from the younger kids to the much older kids who have experienced even more. So I'm so glad that it's opened up those conversations with the students, and they're able to critically think, and then just have that open dialogue with you, as well as the attorneys. So I'm really excited that you and Ariel Community Academy continue to be a partner with the Lawyers in the Classroom program. So we hope that you will continue, and we're just so grateful that you were a part of the program this year. So thank you so much again for being a part of this interview, this series, and I look forward to working with you going forward.
Oh, thank you. We look forward to working with you again. Thank you.